So this is the integrated workflow. Started from the core data set. We try to integrate image log. We try to integrate the geomechanics. We try to integrate the 3D seismic data set. And we also integrated the 3 fracture drivers with, based on the geomechanical approach. And we come up with a sweet spot map indicating the fracture system in the subsurface. The beauty of this workflow is that it can be equally applicable in anywhere around the world, or in Pakistan where the same challenges have been encountered. So let's start with the characterization about with the microfishes. We know that the 18-meter core was available from the Scacer formation. Some larger forums were available, were interpreted on the core plates, where including the nummulitis nummulitis, alveolina, storytide, etc. Green algae was also identified on the core plates. So initially, 7 genetic classification of fishes were introduced based on the faunal representation from the core data after the Kurosawa classification of scheme. But these 7 genetic classifications were further lumped together into the 2 main genetic classification. Number 1 is the algal millulite pelecypod and wakestone packstone, which is considered to be deposited in the inner lagoon setting, and the second one is the bioclastic foraminifera wakestone packstone, which is considered to be deposited into the outer lagoon. So on the basis of the information from the core data, it came up that the environment of deposition is inner to outer lagoon. Some coral patches are also developing in this side of area on a westward dipping ramp. So coming to the image log analysis, which will be further used in the fracture drivers, it was identified that a total number of 36 fractures were present. Some of the fractures were conductive with limited fractures with the resistive fractures. The strike of the conductive fractures were actually not 55° west. And the width of the fracture system is considered to be 30 meters apart, and few fractures are tens of meters tall. 1D MEM analysis was also carried out. We know that actually the fractures which are critically stressed are important for the production of hydrocarbon. So basically the Mohr circle tensors were actually used to plot the fracture shear and normal stress values from the mechanical earth modeling, which was previously carried out, and the fractures were later analyzed for the critical stress analysis. So based on the stress tensile and the pore pressure, it came up that the fractures which were critically stressed are highlighted in the red circle. I don't know why it's not working. So you can see on this one, the red color is basically representing the fractures which are critically stressed, whereas the green color is representing the fractures which are stable and are not critically stressed. So on the upper right-hand side corner, we can see a stereo net plot where actually the column excessive stress is plotted. So anything which lies in the yellow color is representing the area where in which area any fracture will be the critically stressed, and the fractures which are present in the green color will not be critically stressed and are considered as stable fracture. So here we can see those fractures are here, and basically the fractures are plotted on the base of dip magnitude and dip azimuth on this stereo net. So here the dip, which is the fractures which are critically stressed, have a dip azimuth of around 200 to 220 degrees centigrade, 220 degree, sorry. So actually the strike of those fractures are not 50° west up to not 70° west. Then we know that actually the image log was only available for one well, so we tried to integrate some of the information from the 3D seismic data. Different type of seismic attributes were actually run on this seismic to identify or to highlight the fracture system in the subsurface. Here is an example where the ant tracking has been done on the dip deviation on the top scacer. We can clearly identify two set of lineaments. One is actually the northwest-southwest, and the other one is almost east-west trending fracture system. So from the previous slide, we remember from the image log analysis that north 55 degree west and the south 55 degree as east fracture strike has been encountered from the image log analysis at the well X1. So here is also a plot carried out from the stereo net that has been extracted from this seismic attribute, and we can clearly see two set of fractures from north 50 degree west to south 50 degree east and in east-west trending fracture system. So also these fractures, this fracture attributes were later on tried to calibrate it with the well data, which is only available for the one well. We know that the resolution is different for the two measurements. The resolution of image log is very high as compared to the resolution of the seismic system, so we cannot expect an exact match, but overall the striking features are clear on this one. So now here is now in the next step we try to integrate the image log analysis and 3D seismic attribute analysis to analyze the fracture kinematics, how they were formed in the past. So on this plot, we can clearly see that based on these two integration, that we can clearly see that there are two type of. I'm so sorry. It's not working. So we can see that one fracture system is present, which is striking in. Sorry, can I have the mic? Here is one fracture system which we encountered also in the well X1. Then this is considered to be the joint or the tension fractures. Then we also predicted two other fracture system, which is riddle shear present denoted by R and R dash in the north-east direction and roughly east-west direction. So all these were considered to be the discontinuous fracture system and in a stepping pattern. And then we also predicted some fracture system which is named as conjugate fracture system as P fractures. So on the basis of all these observations, it is analyzed that these fractures were formed due to the strike slip movement, where the dominant displacement zone is east, northeast, and southwest zone. So now is the time to integrate all the information which we have been already observed. So basically, in modeling of the natural fractures, we use three drivers. One is the natural fracture prediction, which is the geomechanically based approach, and it depends upon the seismic perturbation stress distribution around the seismically mapped faults. The next is the next fracture system. The next fracture driver is fault damage zone. It is an empirical formula-based approach on the observation that closer to the fault we will predict more fractures, and intensity of the fracture decrease as we move away from the fault. And the last is the restoration from banding. This is also a geomechanical based approach where the computed stress and strain relationship has been used to predict the fractures in the subsurface. So let's talk about the first parameter, which is the geomechanic related fault fracture system. So in this, the main input is the 3D subsurface model, 3D substructure model. And in this, for the modeling of this NFP, basically we have to assign well data mechanical type of the fractures. Either these are joint or shear fractures, etc. And similarly, fault patches which were being produced during the seismic attribute part were also assigned the mechanical type. And then thousands of simulations were run at the background to see that these observed data are matching with which of the paleotectonic regime. And it will try to find out the best fit with the observed data, and then it will plot a tectonic map on which we can see where in which regime and in which maximum azimuth direction this data fits. So we can see in in this particular case, the well was assigned as the well fracture system for the well was assigned as joint, and from the fault patches from the seismic, some of them were classified as joint, and some of them were classified as shear fractures. So the tectonic map, here is the tectonic map where on the vertical axis actually the azimuth maximum compression direction, on the y-axis we can see the stress ratio, and it came up that the paleo stress direction is basically not 68° west, and it best fit the strike slip regime. This rectangle is actually representing the maximum horizontal compression in the present day, which is not 35° west, and it also conforms with the observation from the image log analysis. On the basis of this stress inversion, we came up with the two set of fractures. One highlighted in the green color, and which is the tension fractures. These are subparallel to the maximum paleo direction in the in the past, and one riddle shear fractures, one set of fractures which are conjugate at plus minus 30° to the maximum horizontal direction in the past. So remember, when we talk about the fracture kinematic analysis, we were only using two information, which was the image log analysis and the 3D seismic attribute. But this stress inversion itself conforms to the finding of the kinematic analysis, which we have already done. But we did not find any P shear on the basis of this stress inversion. The next the next fracture driver is the fault damage zone, which is an empirical, which is based on actually an empirical formula. This information basically says that along the fault, the fracture intensity is basically dependent upon the displacement of the fault as well as the distance to the fault damage zone. So on the basis of this, parallel to the fault direction, the fractures were modeled, as you can see in the picture on the right-hand side below. And last is the geomechanical based restoration, where the top of the reservoir was initially flattened out, and then the top of the stress inversion was actually the forward simulation method is adopted to restore the top on the present day stage and see how many fracture can be encountered while using this approach, which is for the bending at the current state. And all those stresses were used to generate the fracture related to the bending to this way. So two set of fractures were actually modeled on the basis of just bending related geomechanic restoration. One is basically the tension fracture system, and the other one is the shear fracture system.